conversation we were having, centered around the idea of does nationalized healthcare make sense? And the answer was that it's actually the only thing that does make sense. You know,
What do you mean by that?
right? Like, say you're providing automobile insurance, you provide this service for a certain premium, and those premiums are underwritten and basically they vary from age group to age group, risk group to risk group, right? You know that you will most likely get accidents with this group right here. But once you get over 37 years of age and you're in the Midwest and blah blah, I don't know. You'd have to talk to an actuary. But over here, this whole group basically they almost never have accidents. So there's where you make your money, right? And we can apply the same thing to homeowners insurance, and those make sense, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So what about healthcare doesn't make sense then?
Okay. So when we say that when people think that healthcare as a concept makes sense, they're going off the idea that this thing has existed for a long time, right? So
Yeah.
so it's institutionalized, and they're just in the habit of saying this, and they see the margins for health insurance and their profitability. Okay, but say we're like on Shark Tank or something like that, right? And
Okay.
yeah, I don't know if we can use Shark Tanks, but you've got this idea for a business, right? And your idea is, hey, I want to create a brand new business model, and it's insuring people's health care. Does that make sense? And the answer for me is no, because
Well, because at some point everybody gets sick.
well, not at some point, like at regular points, right? So like, my first question is, how do we make money on this? Because yes, at some point, but very often, especially, people get colds, they get the flu, they have allergies, they get sinus infections, all this. I don't know, young kids break bones, right? Older people, even people are well. Women need mammograms and pap smears. There's well child exams. You know, people get physicals. Men don't. That's why they all die of colon cancer. But the whole point. But then they get cancer, right?
Yeah.
So the whole question is, how do we make money on this brand new model? And your answer would be what?
Jack up the prices.
We jack up the prices. We jack up the prices on the premiums, right? And I'd have to go, well, at this point, you'd have to charge like 10 times what you do for auto insurance. But at that point, you're still not making money. So okay, well, we'll only insure up to 80% of this, and maybe 90% of this, or 75% of this, right, for lifetime. Okay. So at that point, okay, we've just jacked up the premiums, and we've reduced. We're not providing 100% coverage, right?
Okay.
So what would be the next thing that we'd have to do? You don't know the answer to that. You know why? Because you haven't had health insurance.
No, I've never had health insurance.
You're the millennial who doesn't have health insurance. So you're going to be introduced to this wonderful thing in the next couple of months, right? Because you're about to get it, where you have exorbitant premiums, and you have not 100% full coverage, and you're going to have to choose a deductible plan. And if you're like somebody like me who's got a family of 4, well, in order to make this affordable, I have to choose a high deductible plan, which means that my family as a whole has to reach like $4,000 a year before everything starts kicking in at a certain rate.
Wow.
Okay, so at this point, in order to make money, we've jacked up the premiums. We've reduced, we bought it down from 100% coverage, and we have a high deductible plan. And at that point, what are you insuring? Not a lot, right? At this point, it becomes basically a scam. Okay, and that's what I mean when I say it doesn't make sense. This model doesn't make sense because there's so many things that the consumer has to give up in order for this to be a profitable entity, that it's no longer technically health insurance. People wind up paying. I think once you consider employer contributions, the cost is somewhere like around $12,000 a year to house a family. I mean, to not house a family, to insure a family. Okay, so for like me, after like 8.5 years, I've spent almost $100,000, on these services. I don't know if I've actually redeemed $100,000. What would happen if I had that $100,000 and was able to put it in like something that bore interest, right?
Yeah.
But I'm paying for this insurance because it's an investment in my family's well-being, sort of. Well, the problem is, if I consider it an investment, well, I'm investing my money in you, and you have no fiduciary responsibility to me. Your fiduciary responsibility is to your shareholders. So once again, your whole goal is to keep from providing me the services that I believe I'm investing in order for them to make a profit.
Yeah.
So when you go to all those lengths to do it, ultimately, for lack of a better phrase, health insurance as it exists right now is a scam. And the only thing that does make sense is nationalized health care, because then at the very least, a government has a responsibility to its citizens. I think that's where we wound up on that.
Yeah.
Okay. I love this song.